And welcome, I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Thanks for joining us on another special episode of the NewsX Business World panel on the Indian economy. Now, we've already heard, of course, from the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, whose union government has introduced a 20 lakh crore economic stimulus package for the economy. This adds up to 10% of our GDP. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, in a series of press conferences, has given us the details about the sectors this is going to be allocated to, and of course, some of the reform measures the government is planning. What does industry think, though, of this stimulus, and what more do they need for the government in the days ahead? As India hopes to take advantage of the situation, hopes to make the most of the adversity to turn it into a positivity in the post-COVID-19 world. Joining us is a very special panel. Let me quickly introduce all of them for you. Mr. Keshav Ajanka is live with us, Executive Director, Century Plyboards India Limited. Mr. Goldie Bell, a well-known filmmaker, is live with us. Devdeep Sengupta, President and MD, SAP Indian Subcontinent, is also live with us this evening. Mr. Ashish Bhutani, Managing Director, Bhutani Group, is joining us this evening. Divya Lal, Founder and Managing Director, Fliplan Education, also joins the panel. Sandeep Agarwal, Founder, Shop Clues and Room Technology, is also live with us. And Seema Jhingan, co-founder and partner, Lex Counsel Law Offices, joins the panel this evening, as does Dr. Anurag Batra, founder and editor-in-chief of Businessworld and Exchange for Media. Welcome all of you, and thank you so much for being with us. Let me begin with you first, Keshav Bhajanka, if I can. Your main takeaways, Keshav, of the economic package, of the stimulus, what did you make of it? Your main takeaways, what has gone right for industry in it, and what you want in the days ahead as well?
Okay, so if you look at stimulus is basically supposed to mean to cause a spurt, right? It is supposed to look at an increase in growth. It is supposed to look at getting things kick-started. So whereas I understand that there are a lot of limitations that the government must have, this, I believe, is a very good rescue package, because what it has done is it has helped industry which almost became insolvent, or which was on the verge of becoming insolvent, become solvent again. But at the same time, in my opinion, I think that it lacks in the stimulus aspect. The reason I'm saying this is because we need something to kickstart the economy. Okay, if you look at what the government has done, the government has reduced the ESI and the PF for small industries. The government has decided they'll pay it. For larger industries, they have said that the PF will be down from 12% to 10%. All of these measures are going to help slightly, but they are not game changers. If you look at the MSME sector, well, they have given sovereign guarantees. The government has been, has been trying to help the sector, but again, it is in the form of a loan. A loan, sooner rather than later, will have to be repaid, even after the announcement of the RBI today, where they have stated that the moratorium period is likely to be extended by 3 more months, and instead of a bullet payment, all of this is going to be transferred in the form of the final loan amount, or the loan amount gets increased. I believe that these measures are going to help. They are going to bring about some relief. They are going to ensure the industry continues to operate and does not cease to operate. Okay. But what we need today is a spurt in demand. We need something to kickstart the wheel again. So if you look at the entire economy, how exactly is it in a negative sentiment in a scenario where external environment is poor, where the overall global macros are looking very bleak? How do you start the economy? So I'm not an economist, but I believe one area where the government could have taken a step is perhaps GST. When the last financial crisis hit, I think excise duty was reduced by almost 4%, if I'm not wrong, or maybe even higher. And that led to an increase in consumption across. It led to an increase in consumption for all products. Particularly in the case of durables, what happens is the cost is high, so the GST value amount increases. It looks like a big amount. Now, if the government can take a step and reduce GST for industries altogether, I think that could help in spurring consumption. Because today, that is the immediate need of the hour. How do we get the consumption within the economy back on track? So that was my 2 cents on it.
Okay. Before Anurag Batra also comes to you with a question, do you believe that some of the measures that you just outlined are still doable? Do you believe they can be implemented by the government in the short term? Of course, there's only a limited amount that the government can do. And every sector is, of course, demanding so much. But what is realistically feasible for your sector?
Okay, so if you look at the GST aspect, I think the GST collection right now is down in any case. I think last month it was 30, 40,000 crore, maybe even lower. This month it looks similar. So the government may be able to do it. I'm not
Yes.
an economist, as I've already said. So I'm not really sure as to how much leeway they have. But across sectors, if they take a drastic step like this, it could go a big way.
Okay, Dr. Batra, do you want to come in?
You said, Keshav, you rightly said you want the GST to be reduced. That's one direct intervention that the government can make. If you had to recommend how much GST should be brought down from 28% to what percentage?
Good evening, Dr. Batra. So I believe that it's a very tough question, but if you look at it on my sector, on plywood, laminates, building materials, basically, wood panel building materials, the GST rate is 18%. I believe to begin with, this was the wrong rate, but now since it is 18%, we can't help much with that. In the interim period, I would be looking at a 6% reduction. I would hope that if the government can bring it down,
and from 18% to 12%, that's a very specific input. Although it's good that we are getting a specific input.
Exactly, absolutely. Goldie Bhai, let me take that to you. Let me bring you in here on your takeaways, your the main pluses for industry from what the government announced and what you've heard, of course, from government so far, and what really more can be done in the days ahead for your sector, but also for the country at large.
See, unfortunately, the entertainment sector is always last to be looked at. The government very rarely takes us very seriously in any case. But there are three verticals that we work on at the moment, which is the cinema movie going experience, the television, that's the linear TV, the soaps, and the network that are out there, and the third is the more rapidly growing, still growing sector, the digital content sector. So we work in all three aspects of it. And so the cinema sector is down very badly, and people are looking at producers like me are looking at other alternates to exhibit their movie, which is also pissing off or spoiling the equations with the exhibition sector. So as I see, television, there's no new content being made, so there's nothing new coming out on television itself. On the digital, whatever we had ready, we are putting that out, and very soon content is going to dry up over there as well. So although people are tuning in more to the digital platforms and watching more SWOT stuff than earlier, but definitely since advertising is down, my entire sector is going to get affected by it. There has been no relief given to the networks for their new laws that have been passed for the direct to home services. There is no roadmap for when theaters can reopen. What is the way forward for that? We don't have any idea as to when the shootings can resume, so that we can start manufacturing as in business terms again. Apart from that, there's nothing that covers the entertainment sector in this entire stimulus, or you may call it like a kind of a budget that has been announced. There's nothing that covers the entertainment sector. There's nothing that covers the daily wages.
That's disappointing for you. That's disappointing for you. You're saying.
Only what would have you wanted? So, for example, cinema hall, the multiplex operators have been demanding,
like a GST reduction. GST reduction also will help us also. I don't know specific numbers, because I deal with the creative aspect more, but definitely a reduction in GST, and not just for 3 months, an overall reduction in GST will help the sector in any case. From my point of view, also we need to look at the advertising sector as well, because that's from where the money flows into the entertainment sector, a lot of it, and like Dr. Batra was saying about the theaters, there is at the moment there is no roadmap given to the the cinema hall owners or the chain owners as to what are they supposed to do with their overheads. I see a lot of like in any other world, I see like a lot of these cinema hall chains that have a lot of debt. I don't see them coming out of this mess. I see a lot of smaller guys not being able to survive it. It's the medium range guys who don't have too much debt. I see them surviving it, but also holding out. For how long are they supposed to hold out? And is there any kind of a relief? If they are going to hold out. Otherwise, all this infighting has already started between the producers and the exhibitors. And you go to the television sector. There's a lot of actors and technicians that work on a daily basis. There are horrible suicides that I'm hearing of. People are not being able to pay. There's nothing happening in the rent. Like, for example, even if the government comes up with a simple thing like all the rent is taken care of. So that will not only help my sector.
Because like airlines, I mean, theaters are also going to have to look at social distancing measures, but practically, like the aviation minister said, that first there was a proposal being spoken about that possibly the middle seat will be left empty. Now that doesn't make it feasible then for the airline to operate. Similarly for theater, if say just 2 people sit in a row, it's not economical because ACs are on. The projection costs and whatnot, rental costs are there. So it's going to be very interesting how this plays out. And also that's why theaters perhaps expect filmmakers to support them and wait it out, rather than what some filmmakers has been. That's the recent controversy of theaters versus OTTs that's also erupted, Goldie Bell. So what's your take on that before I move to Mr. Sen?
I am with the producers on this because, how much is a individual producer supposed to sustain? There's no relief, there's no package. Even the even in interest servicing your loans, it's a moratorium. It's not a wipe off.
Yes.
So you have to pay it. It's not like there's any kind of money being put into your hand. So and plus rentals. There's no way out of rentals. Whether it is somebody renting a house or it's somebody renting a space for a multiplex or an office. I think if the government looks at something that can deal with the rental problems, even that will be a big burden off.
Okay. Let's get in Devdeep Sengupta then at this point. Mr. Sengupta, your first takeaways, your first observations on the stimulus provided by the government so far.
Yeah, if you look at one of the pillars of the plan was technology-driven ecosystem. However, just to add to what rest of the participants spoke about, how do you get the consumption going? How do you get the demand growing? I guess one of the key aspects for India, technology services exports is a big part of our overall exports. And if there can be, I've not seen anything specific given for technology services, especially digital technologies and things like that, which the world is going to need. And India has the capability and the capacity to be able to service the world. And it is not just in terms of tax benefits. It is also in terms of today, trade agreements between, various countries, the immigration regulations, because, so these are kind of things which can be looked at proactively. I've not seen anything of that sort.
Yes.
To be on a specific thing, but also at the same point of time. For the overall industry, I think it's also an opportunity. While everybody is right now in a survival mode, once we get back to work, I guess there is also an opportunity to reimagine your business model, and try and see, how digital technologies can enable new business models through experience, through entertainment, through any other industry. Yeah. I think it's also an opportunity for the industry to relook and rethink their business.
Okay, Dr. Batra?
I just want to say, Mr. Sengupta is saying what some of our other guests on the show have said, that entrepreneurs have become entrepreneurs because they really are innovative and they find opportunities in adversity. And he's rightly saying technology is a leverage to pivot, to orbit change, and to find new business models in this technology-enabled industry. And hence, possibly, he's saying, we'll come back to him, that you shouldn't expect much from the government. Government has done its best. He mentioned one area where the government can do more, but I agree with him broadly that it's the time to innovate again, because entrepreneurs do it with or without help from the government.
Okay, and that's a sentiment actually that you're right, that a lot of our panelists have been raising through the week, and that's a sentiment that we hope more of industry will have as well. Because yes, while it is, it's natural to be disappointed, critical, hopeful for more, but our innovators and our entrepreneurs need to get back to doing what they always do, to succeeding despite all odds, and hope for more support along the way, but don't just solely depend on that. That's a valid point. Let me bring in Ashish Bhutani at that point as well. Ashish Bhutani, welcome. Your first comments, your initial takeaways of what your sector has got so far, your initial takeaways of the aid to the Indian economy by the government, and what all still can be done ahead.
See, directly, we have not received anything. The only thing that we received is a 6 months RERA extension, which is a very big step. It's a very commendable step. But if you talk economically, we have not received anything. Infrastructure is the second largest employer of India. And economically, as I said, we are yet to receive a package. But having said that, there are a lot of points that we need out-of-box thinking.
Yeah.
People are talking about GST reductions, but already India is on a 5.5% trade deficit. So anything that reduces the tax, if there is no input credit, then it's a direct loss to the Indian government. For example, Mr. Keshav just said from 18%, the tax should be reduced to 12%. But if input credit is already available, most of that can already be negated. What I would want for the real estate sector to begin with, in commercial real estate, the GST is 12%. I'm not saying to reduce it. The proposal is that for the people who are the companies, the big IT companies who are buying it, they should be having a tax credit or a tax input facility. So that doesn't cost anything to the government.
Yeah.
And the cycle goes on. The only thing is money has not disappeared. Money is still there. Just the rotation needs to be done more without costing anything to the government.
Okay, and is it realistically feasible? So as you're saying, it is realistically feasible to provide further aiding steps. Some of those, what you're listing out, what are those in specifics, in moot points, if you can? Because these conversations hopefully are being heard by government and other industry players, and also industry bodies who are interacting with government constantly, like CII, FICCI, and ASSOCHAM.
See, as I said, number one, for the tax input. Secondly, there is also property tax. Once a person purchases a property, there's a consistent amount or a substantial amount of property tax. If the government can provide some sort of stop on it, I'm not saying to negate it altogether. The government can come up with a facility where if you pay a 5 years money in advance, then there can be some rebates on it, or the interest costs that have been pending can totally go away. Then yes, a lot of people will come forward with the money.
Yeah.
Right now, people are scared to spend on anything apart from necessity. So people will only come and invest once they find a good offer.
Ashish, you made very specific point. After Divya, Seema, and Sandeep will come in, we want to come back to you. And especially, you have a large portfolio of commercial real estate, office spaces, retail spaces. The Bhutani Group has built a brand in the last 5 years, and consumer confidence. But if work from home becomes a reality, how does the dynamics of the commercial real estate sector change? That's something that I want to talk to you about after.
I would love to talk
and
about.
Sandeep and Seema have made their introductory comments.
I have a lot of points on that. And
okay, we're coming back to you for that. We're coming back to you for that in just a second. Divya, I'll come in here. Your opening comments, Divya, and we've also seen, of course, the government, allocate a certain amount for digital education, for online education. There are also many other education analysts, vice chancellors, principals who I've been speaking to on NewsX as well, who've been saying that the future of education is going to change in this post-COVID-19 world. Even when physical teaching and learning commences, whenever it does, digital learning, online learning is here to stay. So first, your comments on what the government has done so far, and also on the future of education, Seema. Divya.
Okay, thanks, Uday. See, 21st March, the schools just shut down abruptly. And, the learning was supposed to come to a stop. And at that point of time, I think what we should look at is the online organizations like we have. Everybody has stood up to deliver. We're working 18 hours a day to ensure millions of children are learning, and schools are trying to adopt different solutions. While the government is, I think it's very heartening to see, even in the last, the fourth tranche, the finance minister did talk about the e-Vidya. And she did say that, yes, we are here to support online, and we'll open a channel, and, we'll also put a TV channel for every grade and so on. I think from a stimulus point of view, there's nothing much. It's more about what organizations are themselves thriving on and pushing the solutions to school owners across the country who in various grades are actually figuring out when and what to adopt, given their own restraint means as well. Okay. And because we run a retail segment, so it's easier for us to reach out to the parents directly and also involve them into the learning. But I think my byline is, a crisis is too precious to lose. Okay. And I think this is a pivotal point for the Indian education, because we're going to move into a phygital space like you talked about. Now when the schools will open, there's always going to be a physical and a digital thing. You cannot pack 50 kids in a class. It's always going to run in. So I think while there are a lot of players who have come up and stood up and trying to support, etc., I think we should look at them opening government schools to it, maybe allowing better streaming rates, maybe if it's for education, so that every parent, even in any tier 3, tier 4 town who has a mobile phone and a WhatsApp can work, solutions like Lipton can work. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you can give them affordability from that point of view and give them some ease, okay. From a GST point of view, of course, I mean, you know, right now education does pay about 18% of GST. There's always also been a time some 10, 12 years back when it was completely exempted, okay, from the piece. So I think that is something for the government to see. I'm not really here to look at, but I believe that more doors should be opened, and maybe if they can give some more directive to schools that, you know, you must adopt now something, because schools are trying at their own pace and speed. But if directions can come that begin, take something and we work out, we'll be more than happy to, you know, kind of push things and bring value, enabling millions of children to learn every day. Because at the end of the day, the foundation of the next generation is getting built, and you can't
Yes.
compromise on that.
Okay. Sandeep Agarwal, let's get you in here. Sandeep,
I believe you're from the automobile sector.
Yeah.
As we saw in China, the moment lockdown was opened up, people, because of social distancing, started buying more cars, more two-wheelers. So suddenly the auto industry actually went up. Do you see that happening in India?
Sure, Anurag, and hi everyone. So absolutely, Anurag, basically, because of the pandemic, four things have become very clear and how it pertains to our category. One is that public transportation is not same as owning a vehicle, and owning is better. Ride sharing is not same as owning, and owning is better. And third one is physical retail is not same as online, and online is better. Or it will be very harsh to just say better, but so maybe I should say compelling, more compelling, right? And the fourth one is really on the automobile side, which kind of pertains specifically to India, where India was in terms of the emission policies with BS4 and BS6 versus, let's say, adoption of electric vehicle, where I would say a new vehicle is not same as used, and used is better. So from that perspective, Anurag, our business came down completely standstill. You know how Divya mentioned about what happened in the school shutting down. Our business came down completely standstill. But in a very popular survey by Capgemini, India actually has been mentioned as a second after China in terms of the likely demand for the automobile. And while, you know, it's been now 10, 12 days, today, first time in 61 days, I showed up in office. There are only 7-8% people here. But, you know, we are seeing activities going up. And a specific data point will be that we got 137,000 listings all over India worth around 1.4 billion, all in last 12 days. And the consumer activities online has picked up very, very, very dramatically.
Because things were anyways not looking very good for the auto sector, isn't it? But are you hopeful that this is a ray of hope, at least? The fact that, as you're saying, there is this hesitation to use public transport right now, which could lead to vehicle ownership, two-wheeler and four-wheeler increasing.
So Uday, actually things were bad from second half of 2018 and full of 2019 for the new automobile. But India is the third largest automobile market in the world after US and China. And only 4% of Indian households have a car, and 24% have a two-wheeler. So it will always continue to grow, and public transportation per capita is among the bottom 10% anywhere in the world. So automobile demand will always there. But as I mentioned, people are relying less on public transportation, less on ride sharing, and social distancing is probably a new norm. Because of that, you know, the demand is, you know, we think when, let's say, everything like, of course, there is a dragging factor in terms of consumer confidence, income pressure, etc. Barring that, the demand, if apple to apple, if you compare, would be 20 to 25% higher for the automobile versus previous.
Okay.
So, Sandeep, what is your comment on the economic stimulus? And would you want more specific interventions from the government?
So Anurag, we come from the industry where, I remember Goldie is here, but Salman Khan's, dialogue, कि मुझ पे एहसान करना कि मुझ पे कोई एहसान ना करना. So the best thing government can do is really stay away from us. We are a startup, with a very rude, rebellious type of behavior. So, but yeah, I mean, but in a country where, let's say 15% money you have to earn for your finance partner, 15% for Ashish Bhutani as a real estate partner, and 15% for GST, then you better be doing a business like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft.
Media out, no advertising on media. Sandeep, you won't spend anything on us.
25%. 25%.
Yes, that, we do have 2 to 4% for that too.
Okay. Let me bring in Seema Jingan if we can. Seema Jingan.
You have a large law firm. You work with entrepreneurs, CEOs, CFOs. The government has addressed the compliance side, in terms of pushing the date of filing your returns, in terms of TDS and PF relaxation, in terms of decriminalizing non-compliance. But tell us, what is the sentiment when you talk to CFOs or general counsels or CEOs and promoters? What are your comments on the package, and what is the sentiment that you get from them?
So what I was saying is that the health of the industry is so very important for the health of the law firms in general. So as a corporate commercial law firm, the kind of transactional advisory work that the industry seeks from us is very, very important and essential for this very survival of all the law firms, especially the corporate commercial law firms.
Right.
Now, if you look at the kind of stimulus that has been brought up, I would divide it into 3 different segments. First is this stimulus is more like a financial aid, which is like a debt financial aid for MSMEs and some part of the industry. Second part is the ease of doing business, which is what Anurag just said, that it would be, no decriminalization of certain actions, compounding of many cases and many offenses within the internal investigation scheme. That is one aspect. The third aspect is the industry stimulus in terms of reforms, which what you see in the coal industry, which you see in the defense, what you see in the aviation. But if you look at the entire package as a whole, the penetration of the reforms is far and few, because what we as law firms would look at is the revival of the industry. We're not looking at survival of the industry, because that doesn't help us as a service industry. We're looking at it as a revival of the industry, which is more in terms of investment, not only to MSMEs. You tell me how many MSMEs are going to actually be doing debt collection and debt raising and assumption of a lot of liabilities, and then outsource that to law firms and to other service providers for projects. It's unlikely, because right now they're looking at possibly stabilizing their operations, re-operationalizing their debt operations, wage bill management, a lot of vendor and contractual payments. Yes. So the roadmap for us as an industry is far, because right now the law firms have been very, very busy in dealing with force majeure issues, dealing with issues related to wage bill employment.
And quickly, I have to wrap up, and take a very quick break. And then after the break, we'll of course open it up to the panel at large for some larger questions.
I want to say, Seema, yesterday we had Lakshmi Kumar on the panel from Lakshmi Kumar and Sitaraman, and he said lawyers do well when the economy does well, but lawyers do better when the economy doesn't do well.
Yeah, because
you're giving a contrarian view to that.
Yeah, his firm is largely a tax and a litigation firm. So a tax
firm
will never go out of business. But when you come at a pure corporate and commercial firm, then that's a different perspective.
Okay. Let me take a break. We're back after the break with lots more. We'll throw it open to the panel for some larger questions. Lots more when we return. Viewers, stay with us.